you for being here, guys. I like that. We're getting a little warm up. Take yours, Corey. Yeah. Thank you for being here, guys. We're looking forward to an earnest and open discussion about an issue that we're not letting go of. Not in my campaign for governor, not in Corey Bowman's campaign for mayor. Christopher, Gary, you guys are carrying the torch. Linda Matthews, who was going to be here with us, who could not make it today, but we want to lift up the right local leaders to be able to do what's needed at the local level. I'm going to take questions from you all later from what a governor can do, but we have a more urgent matter at hand. And if we're going to be able to fix this state, it's not just going to be from the top down, it's going to be from the bottom up. And of all the issues that I see traveling this state, there are going to be some ones where we're not going to agree with one another. Right? Do we bring down the income tax down to zero or not? What are the trade-offs to do that? Property taxation. Most people are in favor of bringing that down, but how do we do it? You can think about educational reform. What does it mean between school choice versus improving standards in public schools? How do you make those trade-offs? These are issues where we ought to have real open debate, and I'm proud to say we have met Ohioans on all sides of this issue. But there is one issue where there is no debate. There is only consensus, and that is bringing down violent crime in our cities. We are united. It's not about politics, it's about people. It is about saving lives. It's about common sense. This is not about right versus left. This is about right versus wrong. It is about your birthright as an American, as an Ohioan, to be able to walk into the great cities of our country, of our state, including right here in Cincinnati, without fear of getting mugged on a Friday night, without getting assaulted or beaten or punched in cold blood, or, God forbid, being caught in crossfire and dying because of somebody else's vendetta or battle. That's wrong. It's un-American. It's not who we are. My parents moved to Cincinnati, Ohio 45 plus years ago with nothing to their name. In a single generation, I've had the honor and privilege in this state and in this country to found successful companies, now raising our two sons, and God willing, soon to be early next year, our daughter, in circumstances. Thank you. I appreciate that. We're expecting our baby girl in February. We got kids in the very same category. I got a 5-year-old and a 3-year-old, and I met your 5-year-old and 3-year-old backstage. And a 2-month-old. We got the same thing going. Give Corey's lovely wife a round of applause. Would you stand? Your 8-year-old? Oh my gosh, look at you guys. You've done your part in increasing our population. We need to keep working on that. But we're in this for our kids and their generation. And to me, part of that American dream is that idea. You work hard, you play by the rules, you get ahead. You get to speak your mind freely. But at the most basic level, that you're able to live safely in the cities without fear of violence, without somebody putting a bullet in your neck. The times that we live in, this is not America at our best. And I believe we here in Ohio, I hope starting here in Cincinnati, have an opportunity to show what turning that around looks like. We're not here just to curse the darkness. We're here to hopefully lead and pave our path back to light, to show what is actually right, what is true, not just as ugly as it is. And we're going to talk about this in a moment. We're not going to hide from the problem or sweep it under the rug like some leaders would prefer to do. Corey Bowman's not that kind of leader. Christopher Smitherman's not that kind of leader. Gary, you're not that kind of leader. Has to do some favors to Cincinnati, send favors to city council, right? But it's not just what are we running from. The question is also what are we running to? What do we actually stand for? So this isn't just about beating the left. This is about standing for our own alternative vision of who we are, what we stand for, and what we can be as the best version of ourselves as leaders. That's the spirit we want to bring to the event and discussion today. And what I'd like to kick us off, so we're going to, after we hear from two guests who I'm going to call up here shortly, first of all, we'll pass the mic briefly to Christopher, to Gary, and Corey to say a few other words. And then we're going to bring two guests on who I'm going to ask you to show special respect to, who have unfortunately firsthand suffered from the consequences of crime, recent crime, this summer in Cincinnati. We're going to hear their stories with respect. And then after that, we're going to open this up And we want to have an open conversation with folks in this room. We did it a few weeks ago. We're doing it again today. And the ground rules we'll just set at the outset is, I don't care whether someone agrees with the majority of people in this room, agrees with me or not. We're going to show them respect. But the only way we're going to move this city and this state and this country forward is by being able to listen to one another with respect, to be able to debate ideas with respect in the open, and then to fix the actual problem. So that's what I'll ask, is set that forth as the ground rules for today. With that, I'm going to hand the microphone to a few of my colleagues on stage, and then we'll ask for everyone to be prepared to be very respectful in hearing the stories of our two special guests who have graciously joined us this afternoon. So with that, give a warm round of applause to our good friend Christopher Smitherman. You're going to be a great city councilman.
Thank you so much. Let me start off by acknowledging Vivek Ramaswamy, who will be the next governor of the state of Ohio. And we're very appreciative that with a very keen focus on crime, whether it's Cincinnati, whether it's Columbus, whether it's Toledo, whether it's Cleveland, that we will make headway in a space that all of us can agree, as Vivek has said, nonpartisan. All of us deserve to be safe. Whether you're African American, whether you are white, whether you're Latino, whether you're Asian, we all deserve the right to walk around our streets and feel safe. Elections have consequences. Elections have consequences. So we're here to do the work of the people, but you are the jury. And on November the 4th, will the jury deliver and say no more? That we are going to stand together as a people and really get at the root of crime and solve it. Vivek Ramaswamy just had a great conversation on 700, and I'll be brief here. But what he said is so true. There are a few people who are creating the havoc in our communities. We have to be willing to lock them up, have our judges keep them in jail, and make sure our prosecutors prosecute them to the fullest extent of the law. Our officers deserve our support, period. We can't ask our officers to go and do proactive policing in the city of Cincinnati and then turn around on Monday morning and throw them under the bus, period. So in conclusion, as you're thinking about voting, think about electing people that will support law enforcement, people that will support judges that keep bad people in jail. Think about prosecutors that will prosecute people and make sure that they stay away from us. We all deserve to be safe. Let's make sure that we vote in Cincinnati for our safety first. Thank you so much, Vivek Ramaswamy, for being here. Thank you, sir.
Hello, my name is Gary Favors. Currently, I'm a teacher in Cincinnati Public Schools. I teach at North Avondale Montessori. So I see kids at a very early age. And what prompted me to run for city council was my calling on my life that God has put on my life to serve his people. No other calling that I've had more than now, the way our city is, that we need new leaders in the city that will think outside the box, how to protect our citizens, support our police, support our firefighters, and give them what the tools they need to be successful is the bottom line. Thank you.
Yeah, to resonate with what's being said is that this is an issue that affects everybody. and there's other issues that people care about. But when you don't feel safe coming to a city that we all love and that we want to spend money in these businesses and we want the communities to thrive, and they're not able to do that, and there's this saying that's going around that, oh, well, a person's perception is their reality, which is true, right? But, you know, we've pastored for 5 years, and me and my wife started out in youth ministry. Never once, if a kid came to us looking for counsel and guidance, and if they had a black eye and we knew that their father had beaten them the night before, never once did we look at them and say, well, your perception is your reality. No, his reality is reality that somebody had abused him and had beat him. And so the reality of it is that people are not just perceiving the city to be unsafe. We are experiencing an unsafe streets. And I can tell you this because the building that you're in right now is not just a building. It is our church that we experience this on a day-to-day basis. We have a business that is within a mile away from here. We have a home that is within a mile away from here that we raise our 4 children. We hear the gunshots, we hear the sirens, and we've been desensitized to, oh, this is just how things are. Well, let me tell you, this isn't how things are meant to be, and this isn't how things should be in the future, and this is why we need to have differences of policy, differences of leadership that have led our city to these situations. Now, finally, I'll say this, because many people talk about we have to have active policing. We have to have police officers do their job, which is true. But this is essentially what I see happening in our city from our doorstep. We've been able to witness all these failed policies. And what's happening in our city right now is I have 4 children right here. If I go into my house and my wife looks at me and says, you're only allowed to speak with them whenever they act bad. You're only ever allowed to communicate with them when you go and discipline them, right? Which we believe in discipline in our house, by the way. And so if that's the only case, I'm not able to have dinner with them. I'm not able to have conversations with them. I'm not able to actually have a relationship like that. Then that relationship is going to be one-sided to where, hey, we see the father as the bad guy. Well, what's happening in our city right now is there's policies, there's community initiatives, and there's things that are put in place that divide our officers from the communities that they love and they want to serve. You know, I grew up and you watch movies, old school movies, to where it would be Friday night after a football game and everybody meets at the local diner or the local barber shop. And who was always in the businesses? It was always like the local police officer in uniform, right? A part of the community. And that's not a culture that we have in our city. We've got to bring that back. We've got to allow our officers to do their job. We've got to support them. But then also we've got to bridge that divide to say, hey, these officers that care so deeply about our city, we need to prove to these communities that feel like it's only the bad guys that we are for them and that we are going to protect and serve those communities. Because I'm telling you, when you ask the single moms in these low-income areas that we pastor in, the number one thing they tell you that they care about is keeping their babies safe, keeping the streets safe, and they'll tell you we need to up the patrols, we need to up the security that's going on in our city. They desire that, we desire that, and it's time to change leadership this November.
Thank you, Corey. So what we're going to do now is we're going to invite the first of our 2 special guests. We're going to listen to her. Invite the second of our 2 special guests, and then we're going to open this up to Q&A, discussion, and have an honest conversation for the remainder of the hour that we have together. So with that, I want to introduce somebody who's become a friend over the last couple of months under unfortunate circumstances. Many of you may be familiar with her story from what you've seen on TV or on social media. Holly, who was tragically assaulted on a Friday night in the streets of the city that we love for no fault of her own, but a woman who has shown through that process in her recovery great courage, great bravery, and grace to be able to share her story with the intent of actually making sure that people like her, when they go out to a friend's birthday party on a Friday night as a mother of a young child, having a rare good evening out, are able to actually enjoy their cities rather than to be victimized by it. But Holly, I will say, you are not a victim. You're a victor. You're a winner. You're a friend. And I want to thank you for coming out today and sharing your story. Please join me in welcoming Holly to the stage. Thank you, Holly.
I'm a little fragile still, so I have to lean on a chair. My balance comes and goes with some neurological issues that I've had since the event. But hello, everyone. My name is Holly, and I just wanted to come and stand up here with some of the men and women who are not afraid to stand out against some of the leaders that are not leading our city currently, and they are not afraid to stand up for change and to help our police. The night that this happened to me, there was literally a handful of police officers that were out risking their lives on one of the biggest, highest criminal nights of the year after year, the Jazz Fest. It's a known fact. And so the police chief was offered extra help from the state and from the sheriff's department and everything else and turned it down. And the more public I've gone asking why were there people attacked where it could have been prevented? Why are people getting killed on the street under your watch? I was victim shamed to the point that I was labeled a Russian spy and had to go into hiding because I was afraid I was going to be arrested for treason. And I still, from my hiding spot, went public and continued to ask, where was the help? Why did you turn down the help where other victims are getting shot and killed? 2 weeks later, Sharonda Wynn was gunned down in cold blood in over the Rhine. And then within the next day or two, the mayor took a stroll on a news channel and said, look how safe it is. Crime is down, everyone. And I found that to be just disgusting. Instead of saying, I'm so sorry for your loss to her mother and her children, her 5 children, they tried to dehumanize the situation like they did with me. And then when I saw how Sarah and Patrick Herringer, her husband, Patrick, was murdered by saving her life from a man who should have never been out of prison, the people who attacked us should have never been out of prison. Some of them, had $400 bonds. They were out on bonds when they attacked me. And some of these people who are out here continuously murdering and attacking innocent victims like all of you, your children, your mother, your sons, it can all be preventable. So I just want to stand up here and say that we need to vote and vote for the right people who care. Let's take away the racism. Let's take away the hate. Let's take away the victim shaming. And let's get the people who deserve to have this position who are going to fight. Recently, the mayor, when asked why he doesn't reach out to the victims, because none of us have been called, he said, that's not my job. And the president of the city council had gone publicly and said that I got the beat down that I deserved, me and the other victims. And these are the people who are continuously letting the same felons out over and over and over, and it has to stop. What's going on now is not working, obviously. So I want to say a special thank you to Vivek and Christopher Smitherman. And Bernie Marino's not here, but they are all helping to pass a law or act. It's called Holly's Act or Law. So what this means, so the man who did this to me was a felon who had a gun on him. And he openly admitted it. And he had said that I wasn't worth the bullets in his gun. So that's why he punched me and knocked me out. And when they arrested him, he had a gun. And some of the people who also attacked me when they got out of jail, they were twerking on the cameras and laughing because they knew nothing was going to be done. They were just going to go out and do it again. So the man who did this to me has now gone to federal court they all came together and pushed for that. So what this means is when he gets indicted, moving forward, any felon who is arrested with a gun will no longer be able to go to the local court systems and have the judges decide to let them out on a $400 bond. This will now go to federal court always and forever to protect you and protect your children. So just know that changes are being done. Something has to come out of these heinous crimes. So thank you all, seriously, for standing up to the bad guys, if you will. Yes.
Thank you. And Holly, you're free to stay here or wherever you're most comfortable, wherever you'd like. We have the chair for you, wherever you'd like. Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much. And I appreciate it. I know how difficult those few weeks were for you, but we're here to make sure that your sacrifice, and I do view it as a major sacrifice you made. It wasn't initially a sacrifice you chose, but you made a choice after that to say you're not just going to hide, you're not just going to go into the darkness where they wanted you. You made a choice to say that you're going to stand on your own 2 feet and make sure you tell your story with a spine without backing down. For the leaders who are in charge of running failed cities with crimes, I would tell you it's a lot more convenient for them if you go into the hiding, if people forget who you are. The week that you're there, they can hide themselves, and then after that, you hide yourself, and they're back in the light. That would be their preference, but you're not letting them get away with that. And I believe that hunger for positive accountability, positive change. It's not a vindictiveness towards anyone else, but a positive spirit and calling to change our city and our state and our country for the better. I think that makes you a hero. I want to thank you for being here, and it has been our honor to do whatever small part we can to help tell your story. So thank you, Holly. We'll give you another round of applause. Thank you. With that, we would like to call to the stage our second special guest. Rhonda, please make your way to the stage. Holly just referenced Rhonda and her family. Some of you may know Rhonda. Give her a round of applause in welcoming her. Thank you, Rhonda. I'll give you my mic if that one doesn't work here. She's an incredibly courageous woman and mother, and Rhonda, I'll hand it over to you to share your story. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. My name is Rhonda Wynn. I am the mother of Krishanda Wynn. August the 6th, she was murdered downtown Cincinnati in the OTR, just walking home from work. I would have never thought that this would be happening to my family. She left behind 5 children. She left behind children who go right here to Taft and play football. It's been a rough month for my family. And we're just trying to stay together and get through this. I want to thank everybody up here and anybody who prayed for my family during this time, because that's the only reason that I'm here today, to be able to bring my story and bring some life to my story, because I just thought that nobody understood the depth of somebody walking down the street, losing their life, leaving 5 children behind. And I grew up in a society where that would have been, really considered in the community, but I didn't really get that. So these gentlemen here thought enough of me and my family to bring some life to this, because I have teenagers, and teenagers, how they grow into their own people. Well, now I have 5 people to guide, and it's my pleasure. I love my grandchildren, but with this happening so drastic, there is a necessity, there is a need, so we can see these kids succeed and not go down the wrong path. Kind of keep them on the right path, keep them upbeat, they have their good days and they have their bad days, but we're having some really good days, and I think that's just because the prayer that's coming from the community, the people who are. I've met so many strangers, but then now we're family. Because if you pray for me, people are going through their own storms, and a lot of people took time out for me and my family to send flowers, send condolences, and it was really overwhelming, but I believe that was God sent, and it kept me able to hit the ground running and help where I see a need. And safety, I think, I know we need it here in Cincinnati. You don't walk down the street and get killed. We're not that kind of society, are we? We are not that kind of society. And I grew up in a more civilized society where we looked out for each other also. And that's one thing that I need Cincinnati to do, is come together so we can protect each other. This is not a one-man battle. This is a group effort. So this won't happen to another Rhonda Wynn. Somebody loses their child, it's life-changing. And I'm here today just so this won't repeat itself. I don't want to see our kids, schools in, kids are all over the place. If people are free to just ride down the street and shoot guns, that is so unacceptable. So unacceptable. So I'm here today to bring light to that, and just to bring light to Krishanda's life, because she meant something to all my family. We loved her. And just bring light to her life and her legacy for her 5 children. I may not be here one day, but I do want to leave a great legacy for my grandchildren to remember their mother in a great light, and not just she walked down the street and got shot, killed. So I want to thank you guys for having me, considering my family, considering my grandchildren, because it was really, that first week, it was a really lonely, dark place. And I didn't think anybody cared. But today, I know different. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Rhonda. And Christopher, you correctly pointed out, everyone should know, they still haven't found the killer. That person is at large, for all we know, in the city of Cincinnati. So I'll kick off our discussion with some facts that may be of interest. It turns out, and the fact I'm going to give you is from Columbus, Ohio, which is actually now even a bigger city than Cincinnati. The overwhelming majority of crime in Columbus is committed by fewer than 500 individual people. That means that Cincinnati, that number is probably 300 or fewer. So the vast majority of this violent crime is committed by a tiny number of people. On the positive side, this should be very encouraging to us, because it means this is a solvable problem. Right? The state, the country that put man on the moon 6 decades ago. If we could do that, we could figure this out. You get the 500 people who commit those crimes in Columbus, the 300 people who commit those crimes in Cincinnati. Violent crimes behind us. It's not 100% done, but it's mostly behind us. So then the question is, okay, well, how do you identify those several hundred people? Do we have the resources to do it? Does it require violating our civil rights or civil liberties? No, it actually doesn't require any of that, because those people make it very easy for us to identify them. How do they make it easy? They keep committing crimes. They are repeat offenders. So if we get the repeat offenders off the street, we have 80% of this problem solved. What it requires is the courage and the will to actually get it done. And that's why we're here today. So with that, we want to open this up to a bit of discussion with the audience, and any question, agree with us or not, is fair game. Let's have a conversation. Please, Bishop, we'll give you the first word, please.
crime, and first and foremost, the Word of God tells us to give honor to whom honor is due. And when we have victims of crime, we can't dismiss their reality. I recently sat with Greg Landsman and our local FBI, and we were having discussion about these things. And one of the future governor, one of the questions or statements that I made was, when these things happen, we all jump and on either side of the track. But what I'm noticing is there's not enough training, especially for us clergy who have a rather large audience. There's not enough training to educate us on what's a violated law and what's wrong but unprosecutable. Should God place you in your desired seat at the head of this fine state, would you be open to gathering clergy from both sides of the aisle, as Pastor Corey and I call it, come together tour, and sit people down and train us and educate us on what's prosecutable offenses versus what's law, so that we can teach our people that even though these things happen, like in Lincoln Heights, when people came, folks thought that was a crime. But we heard then it wasn't prosecutable, and it left people angry. My question, dear sir, what would be your stance to the people I serve and that we all serve?
Thank you, Bishop. We appreciate that question. The answer to your question directly is, would we be receptive to including and engaging clergy in that? Absolutely. The answer to that question is yes, and it knows no race, it knows no gender, it knows no partisan boundary. I mean, you could say both sides of the aisle. You could have neither side of the aisle. We got neither side of the aisle right here in Christopher. People may not know this. Christopher's not a Republican. He's not a Democrat. He's independent. This is an issue that doesn't, we could give that a round of applause. We're fine with that. We have proud Republicans on this stage. And we welcome Democrats, Republicans, or anybody else who wants to address this issue in the audience and in this movement, from the clergy to our everyday citizens. But you're right. Training on many levels is the lowest hanging fruit. Training for law enforcement is not a criticism. It's actually a reflection on what we can do better to support law enforcement, to make sure that that training is current. Training for other leaders. There are many kinds of leaders, not just political leaders. Our pastors. Our church leaders are indeed leaders. Our school leaders, our principals, our teachers. The kind of training that we need to draw those distinctions, training for, God forbid, emergency situations, but also even training for knowing where the law stops and where the exercise of speech begins. Now, you brought up the incident in Lincoln Heights, not far from where I grew up. I grew up in Cincinnati, right off I-75, Greater Cincinnati, and Evendale. I went to Princeton schools through 8th grade. Lincoln Heights school districts feeds into Princeton. It's a predominantly black school district in Lincoln Heights, feeding into Princeton, where I went through junior high school. That was a heinous event, right, where you have people marching with hateful messages through their words. And that deserves to be condemned in the marketplace of ideas. But to make a down payment on what we will continue for many years to come, we'll start tonight with one bit of training. Words are not violence. Violence is violence. And violence is never an acceptable response to words. That's who we are. So when you fight bad speech, here's how you fight it. It's with more speech. It's with the truth. It's what's right. You defeat them in the marketplace of ideas. That's how we do it in America. But we do it in a manner where violence is never the acceptable method to settle our disputes. And I don't care whether you're black or white, red or blue, man or woman. That's what unites us. E pluribus unum, we say for a reason. It's our national creed. From many, one. That is a basic principle that I believe, Bishop, unites all of us. So thank you for that question. We appreciate it. We appreciate it. Thank you. Sir, we'll come over here. I know we have a floating microphone, so we'll come to you, sir. You can stand up.
I liked how you said it's not a right or left, but a right or wrong.
Yes.
What are the what's the future look like getting maybe the 10 Commandments, the Bibles, prayer back into our schools?
Well, look, I think we need more of those, give them a round of applause. I think if you just ask the basic question, do you think America would be better off or worse off if more people were persons of faith in this country, readopting faith? We would be better off as a country. So as a country, we should ask ourselves, do we want to actually celebrate the revival of faith, which I think is quietly happening in the country, or do we want to suppress it? We want to celebrate it, right? And I say this as a proud Hindu, myself, raised in a religious household with the same value set that this country was founded on. We are better off when we believe in God, in something bigger than us, putting us here, as you said, for a purpose. Whether I make it to the governor's office or not, that's not my plan that matters. Your plans, our plans, my plans are silly. It doesn't matter. It's a higher plan that we follow. And I think when we remember that, it gives us our freedom, actually, right? To know that you are here not as your own instrument, but as an instrument of God. For me, that's liberating. That's a point of pride. I went to St. X High School when I read the first 10 Commandments for the first 10 times. We did it many times over. But even the first time, it didn't feel like I was reading it for the first time, because these are the values that we were instilled with from a young age. And so that's who we are. It's a statement of our identity as Americans that we share these values in common. And one of those, which we talk about tonight and near and dear to the heart of Rhonda's family, I know, is thou shalt not kill. That we respect life in every form. And reinstilling that and reviving that in our country and our culture, including faith, to help get us there, I think that's a good thing, not a bad thing for our country, and we got to stand for it. And Corey, I want to thank you as well, running for mayor. You're crossing over from a domain where you give people spiritual inspiration to now give us civic inspiration. I'm proud of you. Thank you for that. Come on. Oh, right here. Hey, good to see you again. We saw you in Cincinnati, about 2 months ago. Good
yes,
to see you again.
You always see me.
Yes.
I'm sorry. Hello. My name is Rosemary Oglesby Henry, and September the 4th, my nephew was murdered in Winton Terrace. On September the 9th, I announced my candidacy for Congress, Ohio's 1st District, and on September the 10th, Charlie Kirk was murdered. I have a question for all of you men who are on this stage, who you all are fathers. Can you please tell our young men who are struggling when they go in schools, when they go in their neighborhoods, that are choosing violence, can you all give them a word so that they don't choose that choice and go down that road so they can change their trajectory? Or can you give a word to these mothers who are lost, who are struggling, like my sister is today?
As a father of 5, 4 boys, 1 girl, every morning I would have a cadence with my boys. Be a leader, not a follower. It's time for work, not play. Who's the head of the household? Mom and dad. Who's the boss in the classroom? The teacher. Who's the head of your life? It's God. We have too many fatherless homes. And we have to be willing to speak the truth to that scenario. And that those young people, we have to do a better job as a community in connecting those young men to good leaders. Just because someone doesn't have a father in the home doesn't mean they don't have an uncle in their life, or they don't have a pastor in their life, or they don't have a teacher in their life. So we have to do a better job of putting a body on our babies. We can't spend money here. This is time and effort with our young people. Number 2, we have to be real in our community about the violence and us speaking up about it. We are way too silent. Way too silent. I'll take a risk and tell you, if someone is murdered in Hyde Park, the entire community is going to tell who did it. I'm wondering why in some other communities, our communities, African American communities, do we at any level harbor the criminals? How can we know right now that somebody killed Rhonda Wynn's daughter? Image on my social media page. Everybody knows, possibly who did it, and they aren't arrested as we stand here today. We have to do a better job of speaking up for the victims and giving no room for criminals. As our future governor is speaking, he's saying 500 people here, 300 people here. Let's be about the business of identifying who those 300 people are in the city of Cincinnati. Now, in conclusion, we also cannot paint our babies in the light that they are all bad, because they are not. 99.9% of our babies are getting up wanting to make things happen in their life. We are not criminals. We didn't have to wait to see the Bill Cosby show to understand that that is our community. But we have to just do a better job of rooting out the fools. And so we can't allow in our Cincinnati public schools anymore this notion that you can come and disrupt our teachers all day long and come back to school the next day. We can't allow anymore our babies, anybody, to punch a teacher and not be expelled. If we've got 30 kids there and we've got one that has a problem, I want the 29 to make it out in there. But my condolences to your family. My condolences to you, right? I've never lost a child. It's a different level. I've lost a wife. I have the empathy, but not a child. It's a different level. But understand this, everybody listening, we have so many unsolved murders in the African American community that it is numbing. And one of the things I hope to work with our next governor with is cold cases, real money, real resources, real detectives, hunting down these shooters and bringing them to justice. Thank you.
And I'll just add one point to that. Look, there is you get to a deeper root cause as well, where the first wave is the few hundred people in each city that are committing the crimes. Get them off the streets. Get them to a mental health institution where many of them belong. Get them in prison where the rest of them belong. That's wave one. But you get to also a deeper root cause, which is this loss of purpose and meaning and identity in so many of our young people, especially our young men, who are hungry to be part of something bigger than themselves, and yet they've lost even what it means to be a member of a family, to be a member of their community, to be a citizen of their nation. And Corey, I will say this, hopefully when you are mayor, I know you got a path ahead of you to do your homework. You're doing that every day, but when you're mayor, and I'll remember this hopefully when I'm governor, is that part of our job as the chief executive is not just to implement policy. That's what your colleagues on city council are going to help you do. But part of the job of a chief executive as well is to set the example that our young people, including our young men, can aspire to. And I think I speak on behalf of Corey Bowman and myself when I tell you we will hold ourselves to that standard, particularly to provide that example for so many of our young men who actually need it. Thank you. I appreciate you. Thank you.
Could I say something to that?
Go to the gentleman in the middle there.
Welcome back to Ohio and Cincinnati. Greatly appreciate it. I'm Brendan Sullivan. I have a military background and I have a family that's all law enforcement. It's a thankless job. It's very complex. Potentially in Ohio, they're proposing a ballot measure to change our Constitution and ban qualified immunity. Some of those incidences that happen, undermined all of law enforcement's mission. So it's very complex. You want to have, correct identification, on search warrants, things like that. But sometimes mistakes gets made. So I wonder what your position is on that ballot measure and qualified immunity, and how you balance that with, police efforts and making sure we're going after the right people and not making them crucial mistakes.
Thank you, sir. What's your name, if I may ask?
It's Brendan Sullivan.
And what part of the military did you serve in?
I was in the U.S. Army, and I did mainly Patriot missiles.
Give this man a round of applause. Thank you, Brendan. I appreciate you and your family's service to the country. I think law enforcement is a form of service to the country in the similar vein that you served in our military. And I will tell you that the qualified immunity ballot measure would be a mistake to see pass in this state. Here's why. We want our law enforcement to be able to actually carry out their duties and responsibilities without fear of constantly looking over their shoulder for being fear of personally sued. So people hear the word bandied about. What does it mean? It means that you have a form of immunity that says that even if the city or municipality or the state is sued, that you don't bear personal liability for that. If you change that and turn that upside down, we're going to take what is already a crisis of recruitment into law enforcement and turn it into a complete desert. That's not going to be good for the very communities who we would purport to help by stripping qualified immunities are the ones that are actually going to pay the steepest price. So that's why we have to oppose that ballot measure while also saying that we want the best in the profession with accountability. And how do we ensure accountability? It comes back to an earlier question, Bishop. A different kind of training is training. I mean, this is, you really want to prevent unintended, rarely, even occasionally lethal, unintended consequences of police interactions that didn't intend to end that way. It's training is the answer, right? You don't want law enforcement training to be a once-a-year check-the-box activity where the last time they fired a firearm was 6 months ago or a year ago. It should be, but it's actually, somebody laughed at that. I don't think that's that far off the mark in terms of when the last time was that a police officer might have even operated a gun. And yet in an emergency situation, somehow we're going to expect them to be what? Somehow part of SEAL Team 6 when they haven't gotten the training that SEAL Team 6 got, let alone in the first place. So the right answer isn't for them to be sued over it. But the right answer is for them to be trained for it. As you said, Christopher, right? Most people, 99.9% of people, and in our true hearts, right, made in the image of God, I believe this, 100% of people are inherently good at our core. But part of our job as leaders is to give those good people, well-intentioned, even the police who have made mistakes along the way, most of those were preventable with the proper training on the front end. That's where we can actually make a difference. And there's a difference between, see, you use this term virtue signaling sometimes. The problem with virtue signaling, I think this is a virtue signaling kind of measure here. The problem with virtue signaling is at a certain point in time, the appearance of virtue becomes more important than actually being virtuous. So you want a ballot measure that might actually ensure regular training? We could have a conversation about that. I could get behind that. We don't even need a ballot measure. We can just do it statewide and in our cities. You want to solve the problem, that's how we address it. And that's why I'm against the qualified immunity ballot measure. Thank you. Do I speak for everyone else on this stage? We agree with that. Gary, you want to say a word?
Going back to your question, Rosemary, about our young people. I've been in a number of schools in Cincinnati. Woodward High School, I served for a year at the Justice Center under Simon Lease, who was the sheriff then, and see how our kids get caught up at an early age, stealing and doing things that they shouldn't do. So now I'm at a position as a teacher in Cincinnati Public to make a difference, to catch them while they're early, because that's where really it starts. Middle school, high school, where I've been at, sometimes it's not too late, but it's hard to get through to some young people once they have that peer pressure and all the other things that come with that. So it is a big passion of mine, our young people, specifically our black males, and our girls, our black girls as well. We need to address that as well. But thank you.
We'll come here.
I wrote it down so I wouldn't leave anything out. So I know there's been a lot of mention of the school system, and that there's no doubt that there has been a certain ideology that has been pushed in the classroom. We saw just a few weeks ago with Charlie Kirk that this mob mentality is pushing people towards violence, and that violence is being glorified if whoever the victim of the violence has opposing views from you. So I am 19 years old. I'm currently a student at Mount St. Joe, and I know this issue is far beyond that. It's not just at my college. So we have had teachers at a school that has state and federal funding send out school-wide emails encouraging students to reach out to representatives on political issues. They send out template copy and paste emails saying, here's this, copy and paste it, put your name on it, send it to your representatives. The main one we got was for the Advance Ohio Higher Education Act, which was prohibiting DEI incentives in school, and it was supposed to ensure that students are allowed to come to their own conclusions without indoctrination. So if schools violate this, they are subjected to potential cuts to their funding. So we have teachers telling us that our beliefs make us fascist, racists, whatever labels they want to put on there. They are telling us what their political beliefs are, and they won't come out and say it just straight out, but they'll make little hints at it, or like under their breath, and everyone hears it and they know it. So an example is I had to take a speech class where this is a required class. I had to learn about the proper pronoun usage for people who are non-binary. I'm going to read off a homework assignment that I had to answer this question for a speech class. Karen wants to ban books with non-cisgendered characters from her local library. She gives a speech claiming that such books may cause her children to be groomed into choosing a non-cisgender identity. Which of the following strategies did Karen use to spread misinformation in this scenario? So we know that there's violence being pushed because they're saying, the people who don't agree with this narrative that's being pushed, they're Nazis, they're fascists, they're this, that, and the other. And then they go ahead and they glorify, because we saw with Charlie Kirk, all these teachers came out and they supported it, they celebrated it. So my question is, knowing that this isn't just an issue at my school, what will you do to ensure that the schools are complying with the state and federal laws and not pushing ideologies onto students?
Thank you for sharing that question and the courage to give the detail. I mean, when you read that out, it's more than just you usually hear about it at a high level, but when you hear that down to, let's just be honest. I don't think they chose Karen unintentionally, right? What a loaded way to sort of ask that question. After turning it into an epithet, then they make a hypothetical, we're just calling Karen, after we actually completely stigmatized the use of that as a name. It highlights this devious, twisted ideology that puts us in a tough position. Here's the tough position we're in, right? I'll give an analogy in the old war on terror, in the post-2001 era. The hard thing is, the other side in that war on terror, they're willing to do things that our side isn't willing to do. They would kill women and children, kill innocent civilians. We still have to ultimately achieve victory, and yet we're constrained because we can't do the same things the other side does. And if we did adopt their methods, then we wouldn't be who we are. We'd lose what we're fighting for in the first place, right? And so that's the challenge we have ahead of us, is that the intolerance of the other side for alternative dissent is still faced up against those of us who have our strong, speaking for myself and several of ourselves on stage here, conservative beliefs, still must do it in a way that respects the other side's ability to speak, but without actually turning that into its own indoctrinating weapon. So the answer to your question is, how do we do it? We do it not by imitating their methods. We do it by following the law. The law has been crystal clear that you cannot profile in our universities or indoctrinate based on discrimination on the basis of race or gender or sexual orientation. The idea that if you break those rules, there are actually consequences, that those are not restraints on speech or the expression of an opinion, but actually following the laws that are already on the books that provide for equal protection under the law. And then a lot of it's going to have to come from courageous voices like yourself. You're 19? Sophomore?
Yes,
technically a junior. All right, she's a little bit ahead of her age. Okay. So I'll throw it back at you, because hopefully those of us on this stage, we're aspiring to be leaders in a formal capacity. You can be a leader in your own capacity too. In fact, we're counting on you to be a leader. All right. When you are, I'm going to make an ask of you. Mount St. Joe's. When you're the only person in a room, including a teacher or a so-called professor, when you're the only person in a room who believes what you do, you have an obligation as a citizen, now more than ever, to stand up and to say it. Say it with a spine. Say it with conviction, as you did today. Say it with respect. But part of respect is actually telling your fellow neighbors what you actually think, not some fake woke-washed version of it. Right? So if you step up and you do your part, because none of us can do that part for you, the job of us as leaders is to make sure that you have still the continued ability to do it without fear for retaliation from your university or without safety for your health. That's what our deal is tonight. If you keep your end of the bargain, I promise you we're going to do ours. Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you. Right here? Yes, yeah. Please.
Thank you. As we know, these opportunities don't come by lightly. So we are going to have a fight of our life for the mayor. And we are here in Cincinnati, and not to take nothing away from anyone, but if we don't start hearing from this man, Mr. Corey Bowman, what are you going to do about the crime issues in Cincinnati if elected? Who is Corey Bowman? Because on my platform, people do not know. And they're always putting him in the same room with J.D. Vance. And in this platform, we need to know who is Mr. Corey Bowman. What does he stand for? What are the things that you're going to do in this city for crime and the issues that are happening, along with the team that you're going to need with Mr. Favors and Christopher Smitherman? But if you're not elected and we don't hear from you at this moment, then we will walk away here saying, what and who is Mr. Corey Bowman?
Well, so can I speak? So I want to speak to this young lady's comments as well, is that whenever we first started this race, we realized that from a national stage and from many of these agendas that are taking place, everybody wants to have an opinion on things. And that didn't make sense to me from a local election. Because for me, for the lack of better terms, I see City Hall as glorified custodians. I believe that their job should be to make sure that your streets are safe. I believe that their job is to make sure that your streets are clean. And I believe that their jobs are making sure that the budget is not being funneled in any corrupt way, but is being spent to the best of its ability. And for me, that doesn't seem like a red or blue issue. That seems like if you truly have people's mentalities or people's livelihoods at the interest of what you're doing, we call this public service. Isn't that what it's still called? So when we are running for public office, you're running for public service. And the thing is that many people, when you have a spiritual crisis that's going on in our country, many people want to worship the government. But the reality of it is that the government cannot fix everything. We do need fathers in the homes. We need strong examples on our streets. We need to be able to have male leadership step up and to be able to say, hey, we're going to pick up the slack where previous generations have. So those are things that are important. The national issues are important to have healthy debate about. But when it comes to City Hall, these are not just like what you said. It's not rocket science. It's not the ability to just find all these new ways of doing things. It's about just taking care of the streets, making sure that the budget is being spent properly, and making sure that the streets, the potholes are filled, making sure that the cracks are fixed, making sure that our roads can be able to take on what it needs to take on. From the top down, I see it as trickle-down incompetence. Because if you tune in to, no, it is. We hear trickle-down, economics all the time. I have an economics degree at Miami. And the reality of it is that we have trickle-down incompetence happening at City Hall right now. When you tune in to any City Hall session, they're talking about, they have a resolution for a ceasefire in Israel. I'm sorry, we need a resolution for a ceasefire in the West End. And let me tell you this. One of my biggest helps has been Christopher Smitherman, because I go all out whenever I start talking about all these issues and I start getting in the weeds. But I'm telling you this from a simple standpoint. Your money is being wasted. Your tax dollars are being abused. They're going to nonprofits that have nothing to do with this city. And I'm telling you this right now. I'm not doing this because I'm a plant. Brother Andre, the first time I ever announced that I was running for mayor, I've got all these comments saying, oh, he's a plant. He's a plant from the Trump administration to come in. I've been pastoring for 5 years in the West End. We've been feeding groceries to our congregation members. We've been able to have a front row seat. I own a business in there. One of my good friends, Mr. Noah right here, is in the West End, and me and him probably 5 years ago couldn't have disagreed more on a lot of things. But we came together and realized something is going terribly wrong from City Hall. And let me end it with this as well, because my opinions don't come from just repeating what I've heard on a national stage. I'm in my coffee shop, and you want to tell, oh, where are you getting your information from? I'm in my coffee shop just serving an espresso. Cop after cop, city worker after city worker comes in, and they talk about the incompetence that is happening from the current administration. And that's where I get my information from the people that are on the streets that are getting shots fired at them. Noah can attest to this. We've had 3 instances where 40 to 70 shots have been fired on Clark Street from Lynn Street to John Street, and they get reported as property damage. It does not get reported as crime. So when you want to talk about your statistics, realize that nobody is calling 911 in our city. Nobody is reporting crime properly in our city. And I'm telling you that if you are on the ground, you know something is terribly wrong, and we need to have competence return to City Hall. We need to have people that know how to balance a budget. We need to have people that know that, hey, if there's a pothole, fix it. Don't just talk about fixing it. Fix it. And that's what we're going to bring to City Hall. And I'll end, I know I'm a pastor, so I say I end with this 3 times. 3 times. But I will say this, that if anything, if I get elected, I'm going to put on blast publicly all the incompetence that's happening, because when the police officers ask me, what can we do to ensure that we are going to endorse you, how are we going to know that this is going to be carried out? And their biggest concern was the judges that were releasing all these criminals on our streets. And guess what I told them? I said, we're going to put pressure on all of them. And I said, and mark my words, if I'm mayor of Cincinnati, if they do not comply, I will have a public press conference every week, and I will read off every criminal's name and every judge that released them. We will put a fire on the corruption of this city. And I'm Corey Bowman, and I approve that message.
I'll take the opportunity to tell you, yes, who's Corey Bowman? You guys got to see that for yourself. That's Corey Bowman for you. He is a father. He is a proud father first. He is not a politician. He's somebody who doesn't have to be doing what he's doing. He's a pastor. And he's somebody who practices what he preaches. He doesn't preach. He practices as well as preaching. And I think that that's very important, brother. And I'll tell you this. They say he's a plant. This man is an animal, okay? That's what I believe. And I'll tell you this, too. He's famous because they say, he's J.D. Vance's brother. Well, after you all elect him as mayor of Cincinnati this November, after you all, it's not his job at this point to do it. It's after you all do it. Step out. Go out from this weekend. The people in the room, you're going to do it. But you better go out, spend your time, get 10 more people to vote who otherwise wouldn't have voted. Remind them the government you elect is the government you deserve. So if you vote wrong and elect the wrong people and the same things happen in a year from now, you've got nobody to blame but yourselves. Send this man back, and once he is in there as mayor, well, you know what's going to happen after 2 years in? It's not going to be 1 year. It's going to be 2 years in. The people around the country may still be saying he's the brother of J.D. Vance, but people in Cincinnati are going to say J.D. Vance is the brother of Corey Bowman. That's who Corey Bowman is. So let's get that done. You ready? They're going to get it. It's up to you. It's up to you.
I want to finally say this, too. This city is famous. I'm tired of sports coaches using the University of Cincinnati as a platform to move on to better positions. I'm tired of coaches using this city to be able to step up. The people you have in City Hall right now are using you as a step stool to try to get to a national stage. And my slogan is that other people are trying to use Cincinnati to get to D.C. I'm trying to use D.C. to get to Cincinnati. And so that's what we're fighting for. And then next year, you're going to have a St. X grad to come in. And when do you think all the industry is going to go? The industry is going to go to the gateway of Ohio, which is Cincinnati, Ohio.
I want to acknowledge Hope Dudley. Stand up, Hope. Hope Dudley, yes, please stand up. And many of you might not know Hope, but Hope is, first of all, she lost her son to violence. Let's start there. And we still have not solved the murder of her son. Her son was a good man, was not involved in any kind of life, was literally in a vehicle and was shot down in the streets of Cincinnati. And like the other victims that we've heard today, Hope Dudley has dedicated her life to other victims and supporting them through all this. Matter of fact, whether that's Holly or whether that's Miss Wynn, that Hope Dudley has been there for all of these families. Hope Dudley is like the Rosa Parks for victims in our community, and she deserves to be recognized in that context. All of the work that she does in our jails across the state of Ohio, across Hamilton County, continues to solve murders that otherwise would not have been solved.
Stand up for hope.
Stand up for hope. And as we stand here, in my belief, next to the next governor of the state of Ohio, Vivek Ramaswamy, Hope, these are the men, the women that you're going to be working with to fight crime and get to the bottom of it from the root. And I'm so honored you're here. I want to say just briefly, and I'm just asking for just a little grace here, that we have another person here, Mama Scar. I saw your face. Mama Scar, she humbly raises her hand. This is a woman that is in the streets, Vivek, every single night dealing with our women who are trying to get out of human trafficking. And I mean every night. They know her across this region as another Rosa Parks who's out there in the face of Johns and telling them she wants our babies back from the street. And then my last one is Dwight Young. Stand up, Dwight. Block Ministries here in Price Hill. This is a man of God. He doesn't ask for money from the city, doesn't ask for money. All of his people live in Price Hill, fighting human trafficking, fighting drug abuse. I just cannot go, Vivek Ramaswamy, without acknowledging those local leaders that are in our community fighting every day. Now, Hope Dudley, I'm going to turn it back over to our leader here, Vivek Ramaswamy.
Well, just stay standing for our law enforcement as well who are protecting us tonight as well. Thank you. Thank you, guys, all right? We are going to save ourselves. That's how it's going to happen. And Hope, we'll turn it over to you to give you the final word tonight before we wrap it up.
It's an honor to be here. And like he said, my stripe is not red or blue. It's a mother of an unsolved homicide. My son would have been murdered 18 years this month. When my son was murdered, I was given a sketch flyer to pass out in my community, and families was writing on cardboard boxes and brown paper bags, "Do you know who murdered my son?" My children would go out and put flyers and reward cards on cards that I had created. And the community was asking who was making these cards, and they said, my mother. I worked 3 jobs in order to do reward cards for the families in the city of Cincinnati. The reward cards wasn't enough, so we started doing playing cards. And now we have playing cards in every Southwest prison in Ohio of unsolved homicides. Our goal is to make sure that we put information of unsolved homicides and missing persons in federal prisons in the United States. In the city of Cincinnati, we have 500 unsolved homicides, maybe more than that now. In the state of Ohio, it's about 5,000. When you look at the whole United States, it's 310,000 unsolved homicides. We need people to come forth. Our mission statement is to see something, say something, be accountable for what you know. Thank you.
Thank you, Hope. I appreciate it. Well, listen, I know that we have gone past our time today, but I want to thank every one of you. And I don't think I've seen a single person leave in the time we have. We want to channel the energy in this room to be able to take words and turn them into action, okay? Actions will ultimately speak louder than words. The men on the stage here, Holly, who has also made her sacrifice. Linda Matthews, who badly wanted to be here today and wanted us to tell you the same thing on behalf of her. They're ready to make a sacrifice. They're already making a sacrifice. If you all do your part, I promise you, the men and women on this stage, we will do ours to make sure that Cincinnati's best days and Ohio's best days are not behind us, but still yet ahead of us. To recognize, even for all of the imperfections we have discussed today, and there are many, we have grieving parents of children whose perpetrators have still not yet been caught. I cannot imagine, Hope. I cannot imagine, Rhonda, as a father of 2 sons myself, what pain you must have gone through in the unresolved closure. I cannot begin to imagine what it is like to be in your position. But I still say this, that I would rather live in our country that at least has ideals and falls short of them than to live in a country that has no ideals at all. We still believe in that hope. We still believe in that shining city on a hill, in the city of 7 hills. We still believe that we can aspire to more than this. We are better than this. Just because it is does not mean it has to stay this way. So the question is, what are we actually aspiring to? Not just with the hope in this room, not just with the words from this stage, not just in the applause from this audience, but the action that you take when you leave this room. What are you going to do to save Cincinnati, to save Ohio, to save our country? Are you ready to go home and put up some yard signs for Corey Bowman and the rest of the people on this stage? Are you ready? Are you ready to sign up to be a poll worker? Are you ready to show up in November and to vote, to drag your friends out and to vote, to elect the government that you deserve, that Cincinnati deserves? Make it happen. It's in your hands. God bless you, Cincinnati. And may God bless our great state of Ohio. Do not stop until we get this job done. Thank you, my man. All right? We love you. And our city's best days in these men's hand are still yet ahead of us. Thank you, guys. Thank you.